Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Wednesday meeting with the Public Works. I think we're going to start today with an executive session for performance of an employee. I think we'll start with 15 minutes. Okay.
The board is extending the executive session for a period of 10 minutes until 1:56 p.m.
Okay, we're back from executive session, no decisions made. Susan, I understand you're going to start with private roads. Mike says he's taking off. He's on the road.
So good afternoon. Sorry, I forgot my glasses. I thought I'd makes it easy for me to read what we've got. So as you know, we have been working on updating the private road standards. So I have a very rough draft that Savannah just handed out to you. And I wanted to kind of hit on the highlights and have some discussions about some of the directions I'm going to make sure that board is going to support this moving forward. So I have set this up to mirror our public road standards, and I've added some requirements to mirror that. So what you see, excuse me, I've added general requirements referencing the public road standards and that they would need to meet requirements 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, and 7. I'm sure you guys all know what that is. So requirement 1 and 2 are WashDOT and AASHTO design standards that we are referencing. Requirement 3 sets the standard traffic generation number of 10 for a single family road. The requirement number 4 is, excuse me, that's not correct. Requirement number 5 is the standard drawing requirements. And the only change I'm making to that standard requirement is our public road standards are quite old and they reference 24 by 36 size drawings, which is not the standard now. We use 22 by 34 because everybody scans those and they are easily printable on 11 by 17. So that is the change I'm making to requirement number 5. Requirement number 6 is standard side slopes that we will accept up to these steepness. It's 3-to-1 on fill, 1.5-to-1 on cut, unless you have a geotechnical report to provide it to us stating otherwise. And then requirement number 7 is adopting the MUTCD requirements. I'm adding a number 10 that will only apply to private roads, and it adds the clear zone requirements for the roadway classifications per the WashDOT design manual, and a guardrail requirement if you have an embankment greater than 8 feet. 8 feet seems to be the magic number. If you fall off an 8-foot embankment, you're likely to get seriously injured or die. So that is why I was adding in that requirement. So are there any questions?
When you're mentioning slope, is that the slope of the skirts or the slope of the road?
The skirts, the side slopes. Yeah, the side slopes. We have a different section where we talk about the longitudinal slope. So those are more just general to give people guidance. The real meat of it is the
HMA is macadam of some kind?
yes, hot mix asphalt is what the HMA stands for. As you see, I have things, roadway types and acronyms need to be added because this isn't fully fleshed out. So on our design standards, I've created a chart that mimics the chart that we have in our public road standards where they show the different classifications of roadways. So I show 4 private road types, starting at type A and the smallest being type D. The changes in the roadway types, type A, I changed from 20 to 50 to 20 to 40 lots. That falls in line with some breaks in the design standards in the AASHTO book. Type C changes from 3 to 9 to 5 to 9, and I added a type D classification of roadway. which would be 3 to 4 driveways, and it drops the driving surface width to 16, so it's just an oversized driveway. And that is one of the conversations I wanted to have with you all, if you wanted to keep the type D type roadway, or just make that a shared use driveway meeting the same standards that they use, which is fire district approval for shared use driveway.
Explain the nuances of one choice over the other.
So a shared use driveway, let's say you were on Rose Valley Road. So all of the lots, if you had a shared driveway, your lot would be 201 and 203 Rose Valley Road. If it's a private road, so if you have 3 on there, the road would have a name. So you would be addressed off of Lollipop Lane, for example, instead of the main roadway. So that is one of the nuanced differences. The
But Lollipop Lane and then a number after that?
Yes, so you'd be 123 Lollipop Lane and your neighbor would be 124 Lollipop Lane.
Okay.
So that would be one of the nuanced differences. Once you hit 3. So the alternative is if we drop the type D class roadway and make up to 4 lots a shared driveway, which we have some of these throughout the county where we have what meets our private road standards because they're serving 4 or more lot or 3 or more lots, but they're old existing ones, and they're all addressed off of whatever the parent roadway is instead of having a private road with the name. And a lot of times you'll see a little sign out there with a whole list of addresses. So that has been one of the discussions and concerns with people of why do I have to go to all the expense of a private road when it's a shared driveway? So that was one of the ideas I wanted to bring forward, of either making it a really small classification where it's a narrow road just to meet fire standards, has a lower, much smaller easement width on it, that would be wide enough for a shared driveway and the utilities. So that was my logic. I can go either way, whichever is the pleasure of the board. If it's something you'd like me to discuss with BPAC and bring back their recommendation of the type D, or just doing shared driveways and get Mike Wilson as the fire official's input.
Just a couple of background questions. So let's say we pass this and there are changes of some kind. Are they going to be applied to extant properties, or this is only as changes are made in properties?
This is as changes are made, just like our current standards are applied when changes are made.
And so there's no way for you to compute an aggregate cost for whatever we select.
So I could do rough cost of what it would be to do a 12 or 16 foot driving width versus the 20 foot driving width, come up with a rough number, but, like
Yeah.
per linear foot. Let me write that down.
Okay, thank you.
Susan, can you share a little bit about this? The big problem you're trying to solve with these additional rules and regulations?
So what I'm trying to solve right now, so our existing, and I thought I had grabbed them, but I didn't. So our existing private road standards, we get a lot of comments. There's a lot of confusion. They're very vague. A lot of these requirements that I'm including in here are either what is in there that they can't interpret and are up for discussion, or are things that we're standardly requiring as it is.
So by private road, you're talking about this addressing function. At 5 lots being served, or are you going down to 3 or more that you have a private road, so you have addresses?
So the addressing issue is different than the actual construction
If
issues.
you have a shared driveway, there's not you don't get a special road.
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
I might have muddied the water by
That's
bringing
the-
that up.
Another question from a private road, we've got the standards that you show us here. That's on the first day that the road is inaugurated. Then is there implied maintenance that, because at some point it'll deteriorate if it's not maintained and it won't meet standards?
Correct. And there is a maintenance agreement requirement existing, and it is going to be brought forward in the new standards. It's in a later
Okay.
page. But it's not, I haven't fleshed that out. And it's basically going to be the same requirement is if you're building a private road on a short plat, you need to have a maintenance agreement set up for everybody who uses it so that it's properly maintained. There is an exception, let's see if I have the exact wording in here. So the public road and street standards do not govern the routine maintenance of private driveways and private roads, including associated ditches and culverts, as long as said maintenance does not expand the driveway or road surface or adversely impact adjacent critical areas. Routine maintenance includes without limitation grading out potholes, resurfacing, mowing, reestablishing the original ditch lines, so that they do not have to come back. If you're doing any of that kind of work on your private roadway, it doesn't require a permit. And nobody watches what you're doing per se.
And the other side is if they are required to have maintenance, are they required to perform maintenance, or who will file suit to
If
fix the
you,
road?
if you don't maintain your private road and it does not come to the county because
Is not?
it does not come to the county because of the way we set this up.
That's why it's called private.
That's why it's a private road. So they would file suit against their homeowners association or their neighbors.
Okay, yeah, that was, I want to be sure, we are no longer responsible if the fire truck cannot get through there because you let the culvert collapse.
Correct.
Okay.
And there is a standard note that goes on the face of those plats saying that the county has no obligation to maintain these roads. It is over, by this maintenance agreement.
So what about the pre-existing, the old logging roads that people are using? They've got a lot that goes back and forth. It's been there for years and years and years. And they've got plenty of property. They want to have a neighbor.
So I guess my answer is going to be, that depends. So if it's a pre-existing logging road that, let's say before the year 2015, I picked a random date, that's not going to be the actual date. And there were 6 properties on that private road and only one of them had a house. And that guy owned all of those 6 properties. If somebody else comes in for a building permit on that road, whether it's named road or not a named road, it's a pre-existing lot on a pre-existing road. No changes would need to be made to build a house. Now, if you did some land actions, so land actions are what trigger the private road standards because you're doing a development. Just like anything else, if you're doing development, then you have to improve the infrastructure to reach it. And I am in discussions with building and planning on what's going to trigger, what kind of land action is going to trigger these requirements. Because the idea of improving a logging road that's been there forever, excuse me, logging trucks drive different than a car, and they're all on their radios. So some of the intersections and some of the other items that they do out there do not meet what a private road being driven by a normal driver plus your UPS and FedEx drivers, how they handle the road, and the teenagers especially.
In West Longview, there's quite a few folks living on private roads on Mount Solo, which is unincorporated. And folks that I know, it is a maintenance nightmare because somebody has to have the equipment to do all that work, and they generally don't get paid. So it's out of the spirit of goodwill. So is there a number of lots that triggers having a public road built? I know it's more expensive, but there's an awful lot of people that feed off of that, whatever that main Solo View Drive is, or
So our current standard reads anything that's more than 50 lots,
50.
50 has to be a public road. My new proposal says 40, and that obviously is something that we'd have to discuss and approve. So we have quite a few. So we have Mount Solo, we have Walker Road, which is another example of tons and tons of lots off of the spaghetti private road system. I will admit, I live on a private road and we are close to 40 homes out there. Well, 40 lots were not built out yet. As the maintenance, as you say, maintenance is a mess. I was one of the first homes built out there. And for the first 10 years we lived out there, there were 6 of us. And it was a very congenial, everybody paid their annual dues. A couple of guys that lived out there had their tractors. We'd buy a couple loads of rock and they would on their spare time go spread it out and fill the potholes. And since we've started filling up, that a lot of that spirit of goodwill has gone, and it's harder to do the road maintenance now. We do have a very strong road maintenance agreement, so we do have ways to enforce it, but it can be a nightmare because if you get one holdout, it can become a problem.
Does Clark County allow private roads?
Yes, Clark County allows private roads in certain situations. And a lot of these details that I have in here are very similar to Clark County and Lewis County's private roads. It's kind of a combination of what we have existing and what those two allow that I've been pulling together to make this draft proposal. One of the big things that Clark County's allowances, they have because they're a Growth Management Act county, they have a very robust transportation plan. So it limits some of the locations where you can put private roads because of their circulation plans that they have in place.
Thank you.
Couple things, and I don't recall the name. I hate it. Remember the 2 sisters that were building the lots?
Mm-hmm.
And they were in a couple times because one where it went down, and then we had to do some stuff on the road frontage. If they were going by this plan, would they have still called me?
Maybe. So by this, and I'm going to qualify my maybe. So by this plan, it wouldn't have been quite as wide of a road, but the whole turnout issue, which is a fire department requirement, would have still been in play. Which was one of the big issues that we had to work through, where they were putting their turnaround. Those 2 women, because they were taking it from 2 lots to 3 lots, which is what triggered it, if I recall correctly. So they had to do the full 20. They could do the smaller, more private driveway access. It also reduces the easement width quite significantly, basically in half from 60 to 30 in that situation. And that's more, so they have enough space to put it in and run the utilities in the same easement was the idea behind the 30.
Who ends up you said this is going to BPAC?
So we will probably be taking this to BPAC for them to put their 2 cents in.
Does it go to Planning Commission too? I mean,
In the past, this has never been approved by anybody, but myself, well, not myself, because these are all old, it predates me. Both public and private standards were approved by the county engineer and or the board. The public road standards were originally approved by the board, but they've been modified by the county engineers through time. And this was taken from our old code written in a memo that was signed by a former county engineer, the private road standards.
so we'll have BPAC look at it, and then at some point in time, we'll have some time to review this, I'm sure, and then there'll be a public hearing? Or
I
not?
have not had that discussion yet on how we were going to proceed from here, and this definitely needs more fleshing out before we get to that point, but I wanted to make sure that BPAC had an opportunity to weigh in at this early stage before it became a bigger issue.
one of the things you might hear at BPAC and maybe it addresses it, I'm just not seeing it. Chilton Logging Nick talked the last time in there about a couple clients that had property and they had an easement that was approved back in the day, but it no longer would work. And now for them to build a home on their property, the expense to do a bigger easement and do the other things, that they aren't able to do it. Do we address any of the stuff that was okay back in 1990, but
So some of that would be more of addressed as a policy issue more than what our actual design standards are. And we are going to include, and it's not in this draft yet, because I wanted to review a couple people's deviation policies and how we would work that up to how we could accept changes from our standards.
how we protect these people that did it legally at the time, and we've changed, not them so much.
So, yes, but that's in there. One other thing I wanted to bring your attention to, which is an addition that I'm adding to protect people who are buying on these private roads. It's in the stormwater section that I've written out here. There's item number 3. Because a lot of our private roads are converted logging roads and they're using existing cross culverts, I've included a requirement that all existing pipes that are proposed to remain in place shall be inspected by a licensed engineer and certified to meet fair condition standards using AASHTO's Culvert and Storm Drainage Inspection Guide. And if it does not meet these fair standards, they shall be replaced to meet the current private road construction. And that's to prevent somebody developing a private road, leaving town, 10 years later, that culvert collapses, and now all of the new owners and have to go in and replace it. This standard is what I use in Public Works to inspect our culverts and how we rank their replacement. So I picked a national standard just so that it's something that's repeatable and defendable.
So this is like a logging road that was used, but then they've sold off the property?
Yes.
Okay.
And
'Cause
so.
I access easement through Sierra Pacific to get to actually my property, and it had a culvert, but the state made them change it out. That wouldn't be my responsibility because it's their road.
Correct, but if it's one of these private roads with the maintenance agreement, depending on how the maintenance agreement is written, everybody who uses it would have to
I'm the
contribute.
maintenance agreement on my road.
Yeah, and in that case, if they wanted to discontinue the culvert and for some reason, do the ditching that you see sometimes on logging roads, they wouldn't be able to do that because he has an easement?
If
Wouldn't be
he-
able to take away my access.
Yeah, if he had his access easement, that they couldn't do it.
Not stopping you, they're just not maintaining it.
Yeah, I should actually send them a bill because the part of the road that I fixed and rented a big machine for was their road,
Yeah.
but I'm the one that, well, I'm not the only one that drives it, but the families that live up there drive it.
So another scenario is, let's say I've got 100 acres and I want to put my house so far away. How long is the driveway?
If it's just you, one
Just-
parcel,
Just I,
your driveway can be as long or as you want it to be.
and I don't have to provide a turnaround for the fire trucks or anything like that?
Now, that I couldn't answer. That would be a Mike Wilson question. So because
That's not mandated in here.
no, it's not mandated in here.
Okay, thank you.
You probably would, Arm, because I'm at the very end. My place is at the very end and they had to have, and I do have a circle. I've actually had a semi truck with a trailer up there to know that it can go around. So they do want you to be able to have that.
Yeah, I imagine. So I was thinking in a semi-ideal world, somebody could build whatever they wish there and in whatever manner they wished and say, no, I don't expect the fire trucks. I don't expect this, don't expect that. And just leave me alone. Let's say I'm Amish and I don't want to have anything to do with you.
Well,
And chances are you would not ever go to Susan's office to ask.
yeah.
You just do it. You just do it.
And
You know,
I don't,
think.
I don't disagree with you. I think that's, if they want that, that's their right, and they can, if the insurance company says, we're not gonna insure your house because of this, well, then that,
But
they
in the
deal
process-
with
but
that.
in the process, they end up raising a family. And they want to divide up the property so the kids
Mhm.
can still live there. And that's where you start getting into the problems. But you're
But-
saying the third house changes the rules.
Yes, the third lot would change the rules. And, i- and the way to look at it is, it's not when it's mom and dad and the 2 kids or 3 kids. It's 30 years from now when mom and dad and those kids have passed away, and now it's the grandkids and they don't have that connection to the land. They sell or chop it up.
You do realize that there are a number of religious groups that encourage large families.
Yes.
And that could, by somebody, be looked at as being religious discrimination, making it difficult for their families to stay together. But
Well, they could apply in the deviation section.
I don't think they would want to be deviants.
I think I would, these things would be much better for if it were all declared straight and the title company could say, yes, but you realize, but title company isn't going to volunteer to do anything like that.
Yeah.
Any other items you think I should be looking at and adding as I flesh this out?
Well, I'm sure hopefully you get some from BPAC, because I don't work in that industry, so and I hear of, we hear when people are having frustrations trying to get through, and hopefully you'll hear those, and we'll try to address what we can there, but
Although I understand that we have some very tricky geography in this county that makes it very difficult to develop because of the steep slopes. I hope the standards, the numbers that you've come up with don't put development in Cowlitz County at a disadvantage compared to the other counties. I don't want us to deny people the opportunity to move here because we just make it too impossible to develop.
And that was not my goal. We allow 15% grades, which some of the other counties do not. We do require anything over 12 to be paved, but some of the other counties only allow you go up to 12%. We do allow up to 15%. We try and get them to minimize that as much as possible. We don't, you've driven some of the roads around here. You have straight up one side, straight up down the other side. We don't say no, we say, okay, how are we going to make it work? And it's difficult in some locations. That's what, if it was easy, it would be already developed, is where some of our properties are at.
I'm just surprised you haven't handled all circumstances.
I try, but I can only do so much.
well, I appreciate we have a draft. Now we have a document to work from, and
I'm just thinking of the few people that are on the table now. This isn't going to help one way or the other.
No. So,
Doesn't have anything to do with converted RV parks.
no, this does not have anything to do with RV parks. Fortunately, I generally am not involved in RV parks, maybe just their road connection.
Maybe. We'll wait to hear back. The
Okay.
Next step.
So moving down our agenda, unfortunately, I couldn't be here yesterday for your MPO discussion. And so I went back and I listened to it this morning because I had a conflict yesterday.
Is NPO a typo?
MP.
Yes,
Okay,
Mike
okay.
typed this
Oh.
up and apparently when I
MPO.
Oh.
speak He thinks
Or-
I'm saying N, not M. So, and I didn't see
Okay.
this until I sat down in here.
Now,
Now we know. what
I
you're
was looking at going, what is that? But that's COG.
That is COG. So that discussion. So I listened to it and I just wanted to add a little clarity and comments. Unfortunately, I was going to stay last Wednesday when they talked about it, but we had that cancellation last minute. So, and I had a conflict, so I couldn't be here yesterday. So a couple of things that I wanted to kind of comment, clarify. So yes, COG is the gatekeeper for a lot of the federal transportation funding. So the STP, the carbon reduction, the transportation alternatives, the bridge money, the safe routes to school, and some protect money, that is all kept by WashDOT. So that is not money that is parceled out to the MPO that is then divided up in between all the and member entities.
So for example, exit 21, we talked about, that's a WashDOT.
Yes,
That's not going to be something that goes through the MPO.
so yes and no. So the MPO has been kind of trying to push that along, but the money that comes to it is not going to be STP money. They may have a small portion of it, but that is going to be the larger, the infra grants, or a raise grant, something like that, that comes from the federal government through WashDOT, or it's going to be gas tax money that WashDOT handles, or some other direct obligation that WashDOT will handle from Congress. So that the MPO can help facilitate that, which I know they did for the 432 Tally Way interchange down there when that was done in the early 2000s. I know they were a big part of getting the IWOW up and moving, and there was some STP money put at the beginning of it. But as it moves
Tell me
forward.
again, STP, because my wife is in Altrusa and STP means a bike race in July, so.
So STP is they've changed it on me so many times that I forget what it's the State Transportation. Oh, because it's not STP anymore. It's State Transportation Block Grant. It used to be STP, now it's STBG. But it's the same money, they just changed the number on it, or name on it, so.
And that's generally money that the state gets from the feds.
Yes, that is
Block grant.
Yeah, it's the block grants that every MPO, RTPO gets, or there are counties that get it directly. And then the money, and I meant to bring the breakdown, and I think it's still sitting on the printer because it's not in my binder. So when it comes to Cowlitz County, we have urban money, which can be used in Longview, Kelso, and the unincorporated urban area of Cowlitz County. There is small urban area, which means only Woodland can compete for it. And then there's the rural, which up until this past census was rural Cowlitz County, Kalama, and Castle Rock. And the ports can compete for those money. So the Port of Kalama goes in the rural, Port of Longview goes in the urban to compete. And it is a competitive process every 2 years where we submit grant applications, and they're ranked by the Transportation Advisory Committee, who then COG takes it to the board based on that recommendations. But we compete against each other. We are not allowed to rank our own projects. So we do the STBG grants that way, the transportation alternative, and the new carbon reduction money through that process. So those are what we do, and everybody, so it is a pure, so every entity gets a vote. So Cowlitz County has a vote, Longview has a vote, Kelso has a vote. So there's no weighting on your jurisdictional volume, so.
So the way the COG's MPO is set up, the entire COG board votes on the priorities.
Mhm.
For the metropolitan area, you have the entire board, including Wahkiakum County members and members that are outside the urban area. So that makes it kind of confusing, but Oh, I remember when that decision was made, there was actually a separate MPO board. And that consisted of elected officials. And we noticed while I showed up, the other electeds just sent their engineers who were also on the TAC committee.
Mm.
And so they were endorsing their own product. It says, well, why do we have this duplication of effort? So they simplified it by saying, we'll just leave it with the COG. But then the urban area can get outvoted just by the sheer numbers of non-rural things. So the idea is to kind of combine it all too. At least that's another argument to simplify it, but you're going to make another statement about that.
I was just going to talk about the technical advisory committee. Yes, Bill brought it to us once. He might have brought it to us twice and I missed the meeting. I remember us sitting in there and having discussions, and Dave Vorse and I had a lot of questions about how it was going to benefit the rural communities to be brought into this. I don't know if it was mentioned to you guys, but in addition to the federal dollars that they are going to receive for the planning, the amount of money that they also are going to collect from these new entities that are brought in. So Longview and Kelso's amount does not go up. Ours more than doubles. Just kind of a piece of information. So that is just a little bit of information I wanted to share also. And I remember discussing it once, and I went back and tried to find my minutes of the meetings, and I could not find where we actually made it a recommendation. And the only other people who go to the TAC besides myself, occasionally one of the senior engineers will go in my place if I'm not available. The planning department also attends the TAC meeting, which is a change from how it was when I was at the city of Kelso. So when it was the city of Kelso, it was just the city engineers or the public works directors or the county engineers sitting around the table. This system has evolved since the early 2000s, and now we have because the ports weren't included back then either. So now we have the ports and we have transit and we have all the planners. So it's a very different body than when I first was involved with it. So just wanted to give you a little perspective and see if you had any other questions of me. I know it went through yesterday, but I just wanted to share some of that information. Nope. So then I have a high point for the day. So I have a request that you allow Commissioner Dahl to sign the right-of-way for one of the last two South Cloverdale properties. So with this one obtained, and once we get it recorded and paid for, we are down to a single property.
We can start spending the money.
Once we get that last
Your
one,
dust doesn't matter anymore. You solved that problem.
the IRS
Tire dust.
hired us. We are submitting our NEPA for the change that we're making to the plans either the end of this week or the beginning of next week. So we're moving these in parallel
Okay.
so that we have our tire dust solution. I had to pay my taxes this week. That's why I hired IRS. So no, we're solving that also, and we're hoping to get this out July or August to bid. Is my hope.
So we're going to escape the deobligation penalty.
Yes, we're going to escape the deobligation penalty. We're going to get, because some of the ARPA dollars are in this project, we're going to get those under contract, and so we'll.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, we're good. Okay.
Oh, sure.
How do you mitigate tire dust anyway? What do we put a sprinkler system in that keeps the dust down?
So
Stupid.
it's not dust in the air. So tire dust is so when we get rain, it gets in the runoff, and then it goes down to the streams, and the way it reacts chemically, it kills salmon. So the way the current science, this is all new, all evolving. The current science is you either infiltrate or you run that through a big filter strip So we are working on getting a nice infiltration trench going and some filter strips going, and is how we're changing our plans. Fortunately for us, a portion of this runs along the county road shop. So we already own the property with an area that we will never develop because of the slopes and the wetlands, that we'll never use it as part of our shop. So we're filtering our stormwater through that area.
This is decaying rubber? I mean, it's the rubber that's causing the problem? Or
No, it's
dust?
a six PPQD, I think are the letters. It's an additive that they add to the rubber that helps stabilize the rubber. So as all of you guys remember, when we started driving, tires went flat all the time. We had blowouts. And if you've noticed in the past 10 or 20 years with all the run flat tires, our tires don't go flat. So that is when they started adding this additive, because it stabilizes the rubber so that it doesn't decay as fast. And yes, my sister-in-law works in the tire company factory, so she and I have had lots of discussions about why they use it and what it exactly is. So,
Just a modest comment, the blowouts were because we had cotton cords and now we have steel cord.
so all these changes that they've made, so we run longer, but this additive stabilizes that rubber.
Well, it doesn't let the sidewalls crack as much and all that kind of stuff. Which when you have cotton cord, cracked sidewall means you've got another 5,000 miles max, except if you're in the desert.
It just seems to me it's another example of the state making one rule apply everywhere. I can understand that could be a problem in a extremely heavily traveled roadway like First Avenue South in Seattle. I mean, yeah, there's an awful lot of traffic. South end of Cloverdale? I mean, that's useless. That's,
Now, if I went back and redesigned the project and took out my 6-foot shoulders that we're providing, I wouldn't have to treat for tire dust.
but then you would.
Is
have
that
the money
right?
'cause-
Yeah, I wouldn't have the money because we're adding a square foot of bicycle lane, even though we're not, I guess your bike tires have it in it too, is their justification. Because it was, well, you're adding additional driving surface, and we're like, we're actually narrowing the lanes and just putting wider shoulders in. So that was the argument as to why, and a whole slew of projects that were approved on NEPA. The same time we are all running around like our hair is on fire trying to solve this problem.
I agree
So-
with my colleague. You never pass up an opportunity to encumber.
So the bicycle people are causing this problem?
No. Another factor there, well, how many miles did a tire last? Like in 1955, your tire had 8,000 miles on it. You were beginning to think you needed a replacement.
Mhm.
And now 35,000. That means there's less material being deposited on the road.
Of course, then you look at how many more people are driving and how many more miles a year you're driving. So
But one size fits all.
Absolutely.
one size fits all.
If you live in Olympia.
Okay, thank you, Susan.
Thank you, guys.
Savannah, you're a tour director now.
I feel like it. It was a long 2 hours. Bailey and Kelly joined us on our USDA tour this morning. We call it USDA, or I do, but it was with our program coordinator, Kathleen Walker, who does the rural funding piece, and she brought her, we'll call her a staff architect. Do you remember her name, Kelly? I can't. I believe she's Ukrainian, and I couldn't get her name the entire time. But so she had a lot of valuable insight as far as kind of the lens that they're looking at the Hall of Justice through, which is very ADA accommodations, security, fire exit, safety, And then, of course, the spatial aspect that that building has, some of the concerns there. So we just did a tour of all of the office kind of backroom secure areas with them, and it was about 2 hours. So next steps, we plan on kind of having a debriefing meeting via Teams with Kathleen and her team, whoever she'd like to include, and kind of go forward with what her thoughts are and comments are and moving forward. One update to share that I think is important is in our previous conversations, we talked about, what potential land could be utilized for another building, whether it's a new Hall of Justice or OPD or, whatever the next facility is that we would have to try to look at for county-owned properties that we currently have in our asset pool. And that would be, that 7th Avenue Fairgrounds area parking, which I also know the PFD has been looking at in their master plan. Unfortunately, that's in the city of Longview. It's not in the city of Kelso. And our rural funding dollars and loan opportunities would be specific to the city of Kelso. So we are kind of just working through some of those cogs with Kathleen and her team. She's been very helpful, but that's kind of just everything that's up in the air right now.
So they won't be able to touch the south end of the Hall of Justice?
Correct. No. I think we'd be okay because there might be some kind of grandfathered in type of but I don't know. I really don't. I mean, but that's something to consider. Could be a problem.
Discouraging though, huh?
No, I mean, their feedback, although not, I guess, not professional, I don't know, not their professional opinion, but was probably by the first half hour, Kelly, it was like, you guys need a new building. So that wasn't the professional report out or anything, but it was just, I think they were very, very surprised with how long people have kind of been functioning in there and the way they've been functioning in there for so long. I mean, I think a lot of people in that building, we already know it, we hear it, but hearing from others who have a different kind of viewpoint was interesting.
Was Stacy polite?
Everybody was very accommodating. I mean, we had a pretty good schedule and we were running late there at the end, but everybody was really great. So.
What is the best possible outcome?
In terms of financial, like spending less?
What are we vying for is really,
Right now, and I've been asked that a lot, right now, we're trying to work with the resources that we have, which is right now, in my opinion, USDA and their funding opportunities in the best possible approach in answering that question. So I guess I don't have an answer for you. We're trying to see what it is that we need to get the Hall of Justice in a working, safe, space. And I don't know the answer to that. I don't know what the outcome is.
yeah, I can't remember. The USDA is involved because they've got financing of some kind that they will afford us.
Correct. It's either, it's a mixture, I guess, for lack of a better word, but it's also grant funds are available, but then there's also very low interest loan opportunities for very high amounts. And it can be for construction, acquisition of property, and rehabilitation of buildings.
And we count as a rural.
We count as a
area.
rural area because it's in the city of Kelso.
God.
Longview does not qualify because they are not considered rural by the USDA, sorry, I should have explained that a little better in the beginning, which is why other properties that aren't in Kelso will be more of a cog for us to try to work through. No pun intended to cog.
I think they consider it, is it 15,000 in population and below?
Correct. I believe
Kelso's
15,000 or
around
less.
11,
Yes.
So Kelso
Right.
qualifies.
Mm-hmm.
The only constraint we have is this admin building has to be in the city of Kelso.
If
The county seat.
If I understand the rules, the superior courts have to be in Kelso. Or at least some. I know King County has satellite courtrooms around their county,
Yes.
but there has to be a superior court in the county seat.
That's a constraint on the county seat.
And so that's why in the Hall of Justice, it's the district court that's on the south end in the Longview. City limits
Yes.
go right through the building.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
Yes, that is correct. We actually had on our tour an attorney point that out to us, and she's like, "And this building's in 2 cities." So it can be a jurisdictional issue. Yeah.
So it's always a question, is this a one bottle of scotch issue or a two bottle of scotch issue?
Two.
Yeah, maybe more than that.
Three.
Depends on who's doing, who has to pay the bill for maintenance.
You better keep flipping out fingers, I think.
But we'll continue to provide updates as they come. I hope to provide or invite others to this debriefing and kind of see what our options are and plans moving forward. So. Just one other thing to end on, Commissioner Weber, you had mentioned is it McShane report? We were talking about facility studies and I hadn't heard of that one. We did do some research, which I didn't know at the time, but that's the last name of a person who was on a committee that was the chairman, okay, of a committee that was established to essentially evaluate the county facilities. And I didn't bring it with me, but it was years ago. But I could not find, it wasn't.
Something I put together.
It wasn't
so,
decades.
yeah, it wasn't that long ago.
Before my time. We were not able to locate in the minutes any report. We worked with Bailey to try to kind of research what that, so I don't have access to that. So if you happen to have access to it, please feel free to share, but we didn't find that. So.
Okay.
No.
All the ink is probably faded.
Actually came across it in one of my folders.
Oh,
so
perfect.
Should be
Yeah.
easy to come up with.
We didn't know if they didn't have electronic records then. Kidding. Okay. It was a long tour. We're all tired. Okay, but that is all we have from Public Works. Yes. So that's it, unless you guys have stuff for us.
Not anymore.
Thank you. I have a couple things just to keep you guys updated. Met with Kim Hort yesterday, just to kind of go over the gentleman's resume and who he is, and I believe they're on a call today, so that process has started. And I've offered, if she wants it and the staff wants it, that I'll meet with the staff also, but just so you know that process has started. Second thing is, I think you all got this letter from Miss Clifton. She's the one, they're a couple that have property on a corner of, I can't remember. They're dividing it on the corner of Stewart Creek and Coal Creek, and they're dividing it. And they can't, they're at a point where their house doesn't fit them anymore with the upstairs, they're aged, so they dividing their property, and they're gonna sell that and then put a unit on the other piece. And the way I got involved with it, she had two issues she was asking about. One, she was wanting to make sure the county, we're getting more of an easement because it's an old road, and then when you do some development, then we expand that out to make it fit current standards. And they don't have a real problem with, they're not complainers. And they don't have anything bad to say about working with our people. She had two questions. One, with the easement they grant, will they still have room to put the other place in? And I had Wayne talk with her the other day, and so they're satisfied with that. The other thing they keep asking for is they think they need money for the easement. And I've talked to Susan about it. And I also talked to Doug, and he explained to me, why there's court case that says the county doesn't have to offer
Still a private
remuneration.
road, right? Or
No, it's on Stewart Creek Road, but we have trying to remember how Doug explained it. It's lawful for us to dedicate part of the property for an easement to ensure that the road is still safe, that we have enough setbacks so people traveling, it still meets a certain safety standard, and without that, county could be on the hook. So that's what her letter about. She's satisfied that they're gonna be able to place. She thinks she needs money, and I'll call her and tell her it doesn't look that way, although I'll be real honest with you. As a person, I think when you take somebody's property, they probably, for whatever reason, deserve something, but I understand the laws it's written in the court case, and so explain it, but I had been working on that a little bit, so I just wanted to bring you up to speed where that was. And other than that, did we have other miscellaneous? I heard you. Kathy, did you have, or Jessica? Okay.
Hello, Jessica Warren, Human Resources. I have a request on behalf of Human Resources along with Kathy and OAS and Bailey in regards to records and archiving. We would like to request a summer help to share between the three of us to help support getting up to date on our archiving, our records. HR has a lot of records that we just haven't been able to do anything with, that we need to start archiving and going through to help support that. I will have the budget for it because I have an employee who will be on unpaid leave for the summer. So I thought it was a good opportunity to help start that project.
So it's a job that can be easily done in the 10 weeks during the summer, or?
It's a start. I personally don't know how long it's going to take. I know we have our archive, well, we call them the archives, but all of our records are within our office. And then we also have them on the attic level of the annex building. And
Fourth floor?
is it the
Of the
fourth
annex.
floor? Yeah. So
Used to be the museum.
did it? I didn't know that. So there's a lot of records out there, a lot of personnel records that can, be archived and moved around and stuff so we don't hold on to those records anymore. And I know that there are risk management records out there as well that likely need to be gone through.
And a lot of records that we don't need to even keep,
Exactly.
period. So they can be,
Yeah.
shredded and
Mhm.
disposed of.
So my opinion is that it's likely a start to get us started in the right direction, but until we actually start the project, I don't have an estimate on, what that's going to look like.
So a shared office worker amongst the, risk, HR, finance,
Mhm.
and who would be the supervisor?
I'm willing to supervise the employee. And then, we did this a couple years ago, not specifically for this project, but OAS had the employee, and HR and risk and finance all shared her. And it was really helpful to get us caught up on those tasks that, none of us have time for at the moment.
Seems reasonable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
When we went digital, we used Temp Help Summer to scan all these loan files and do it. So I think it's a great way to do it.
Good.
Thank you,
Rather have
Commissioners.
your talent down where they're supposed to be.
Yes,
Yeah. So
great. Thank you.
anything else, gentlemen?
I think so. Yes. Oh,
Looking at the agenda, I don't see that we opened it up.
Sure. Sure. Do you want to do that, John? Yeah, yeah, go
I
ahead.
believe there's as well.
Yeah, am I unmuted?
There you go. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Chris.
hi, Chris Wills, Silver Lake resident. I just sent you guys an email, but I would like you to know that the online agenda posted has no semblance of what you guys have done today in your meeting. The executive summary or session was scheduled for last. There was public comment scheduled to occur. I would have loved the opportunity to have spoken just briefly to thank Susan for putting the effort in on that, but also specific to an issue that I think is quite enlightening surrounding Public Works. And I've now gone up the chain of command within Public Works, and business partner is there to speak on behalf of what we're faced with. And I think he's in the room, so I'm hopeful that you'll allow him the public comment space to do that. But I'll just go ahead and unmute myself at this time. And I don't know if you guys knew that the agenda was vastly different, but I'm quite surprised that it appears from the picture I was sent with the agenda is significantly different. So from a time perspective, I've been on the call for, an hour and 45 minutes or whatever it is, hour and a half. So I don't know why that is, but I'd appreciate maybe some consistency with that. I don't know why that happened, if it's a one-off or what it is, but it was totally different than what you guys have gone through today. So I will stop talking, but John hopefully will speak on behalf.
Okay. There you go.
Thank you, commissioners. What I wanted to share was just kind of our experience, what we're going through. So you're aware of it. And so we started a project out in Cardinal Loop. You all three were involved in our comp plan amendment. And this process has taken over 2 years. So we're getting ready to go to market with this property. We tend to be very proactive to try to come to you, come to the county, work through issues ahead of time so that we're not caught, for lack of a better term, with our pants down, because that costs us time and money. And the issue that we're faced with right now is we bored under Coal Creek, bored under Carlin Loop, brought in public water, cold patched it because of the weather in March, have now come back in, May of last year. So apologize for the dates, but we're trying to fix the road now. Worked with Public Works, worked with Ian. He, via text, said I am the point of contact for all repairs. Started the process, worked with the paver, completed that on Friday of last week. And now, if you want specific dates, on 3/6, Ty said he was the main point in contact moving forward with the repairs and the patching on Carlin Loop and Coal Creek. Went out, cut out the portions we needed to, sent pictures, everything was fine, did the patchwork, which involved a significant amount of cost, flagging. Friday brought it to our attention that he's not the point of contact for the Coal Creek side of the project, and that Rick stepped in and said that we didn't meet the requirements, and now we're gonna have to go back out and remove the patch, dig more, which the cost is very expensive, let alone the inconvenience to the people that travel up and down Coal Creek. And it's really frustrating because we were a month and a half out, reaching out to the department, asking, who do we speak with? Ty confirmed he is the point of contact. And now we're faced with, we're not complete. The road is not to their standard. And we're going to have to go back at what I believe our expense, because the county Public Works is saying it's sorry you didn't do it right. And I can give you text messages, emails. Chris can share a little more detailed experience, but it's just really frustrating as someone who's trying to develop some property, do it the right way and be proactive. And here we are, that's going to delay us, cost us thousands of dollars, inconvenience anybody that travels up and down Coal Creek with flagging, with stopping traffic. It's interesting hearing our comments. We're trying to make it easy to develop in Cowlitz County. One of our partners is a planning director at a different county, and he has made many comments that I don't want to do a project in Cowlitz County again. It's frustrating because we're spending a lot of money to develop and bring in lots and homes in Carlin Loop in that area, and this is what we're experiencing. So.
And this particular problem was from our Public Works department.
100%. And we were very proactive, month and a half ahead of time, asking, how do we do this? Let's do it right. Asking for the feedback, working with Ty exclusively. And then he signed off on the Carlin Loop piece, but then passed the buck to Rick, saying, well, that's Rick's permits. He had to deal with Rick. Over a month later.
Hey, this is Chris Wills. I'm off mute. And I'm going to add a little bit of depth to this, commissioners. And I wish that Susan was in the room, because I have gone to Ty, I've gone to Rick, I've gone to Gary Gonzer, who's their supervisor. And Gary just emailed me 3 hours ago, standing by. There's Susan. This is great. I'm glad she's in there, because we have a process issue. The process is that an issued permit is signed by a inspector. There's one of 3 in the county. There is no specific inspector who is supposed to do the inspection, although Rich Iverson would say otherwise, but I've read the permit 3 times today, and we actually have 2 of them. So we're fully permitted. And if we back up, when we were doing the work, we contacted the county because we realized we needed to actually impinge onto the roadway at Coal Creek. We knew we had to impinge on the roadway on Carlin Loop, but in the permit, we said we might need to on Coal Creek. In fact, we did. At the time, we installed cold patch, but because our comprehensive plan and private road was not approved, the county staff said we could wait until we did the road approach for the private road, which we just completed on Friday. On March 6th, I reached out to Ty and specifically asked, Ty, are you still the individual who can deal with the inspection and preemptively making sure that the road is appropriate and marking it out? Well, one thing that John didn't mention, and I spoke with Ty this morning, and I told him that he would likely be brought up in a public setting, because I think there's maybe some internal issues there, and I'm not about to get in the way of it. But Ty said to me in text that he marked the lines. There were markings all over the road. What Gary Gonzer just sent me an email of is that we should have been able to discern the pre-marked lines from back in March of 2023. March of 2023 on Coal Creek that have been driven over. I asked via text to Ty to remark and X out the lines, both on Carlin Loop and Coal Creek. He only did Carlin Loop. I called my contractor yesterday and I chewed him out for not doing what he knew was right. And he said, Chris, you had fresh paint on Carlin Loop. You had no paint on Coal Creek. I removed the patch that was cold patch. I replaced it with HMT or HM, whatever it is, the hot mix, the asphalt that they're supposed to put in, and replace it. I don't know what more we as applicants or as people doing projects can do. I'm besides myself on this, and you can tell in my voice, I don't know how to deal with this anymore. And to get Gary Gonzer sending me an email sticking by this is just unbelievable to me. I just don't know how more to express that. This inconsistency in the way that business is being done is impossible to navigate. Impossible. So that's all I'm going to say. I don't know what more to do here. I'm sure Susan's going to say, call me. We need to talk about this. I'll come in for a meeting. This is an unbelievable issue, in my opinion, that the Cowlitz County Public Works has in regards to the way they A, issue permits, and B, comply permits. Because they're telling me that I need to call, which I did. I texted. I feel text is just as good as call, if not better. Sent pictures an hour after all the asphalt's laid. I followed through to check if it was okay on Monday. To be told a gentleman that I didn't know needed to be involved yesterday morning. To get an email in the afternoon that said I need to bring a $3,500 paver and flaggers back in to do a 2x2 cut in Coal Creek.
So I will apologize. This is the first I've heard of this right now, so I've been very busy. And yes, let's set up a meeting. Send me an email or give me a phone call. We can set up a meeting next week and we can talk about it, and I can work on internal processes. I know one of the things I have wanted to get to, in addition to private road standards, is our our actual permit and how we're following through on them. But yes, please call. We'll set something up next week or the following week when we can get our schedules to meet and have this discussion. I'd
Yeah, the
very much
problem with-
like to hear it.
The problem with the delay in time, Susan, is A, availability of contractor, which he
Mhm.
said if he has to come back, he'll come back out. And B, one of the biggest problems is that we had a private road permit issued, which Ty apparently has the authority over. But Rich has the authority over the singular permit that was issued over off of Coal Creek for the right-of-way utilities permit. So that's where the issue came in, is that Ty apparently can double up, but not double up under certain circumstances. I don't even understand. I still don't understand. But the delay in time, I appreciate you saying next week or the week after, but I don't think you realize this. I've been on this list for getting paving done for 3 months. And then to have this happen, I mean, I am one of the most proactive people you can deal with. My permit is flawless in terms of what I submitted. The engineering that we turned in only had 3 corrections. Like we've been super diligent. So I appreciate that. But if you could expedite that meeting, it would really be appreciated.
Well, that's what I'm doing right now. I'm trying to pull up my calendar and see if I can get it to come up for me. Sorry, I didn't bring my glasses up, to see if I have a slot tomorrow, that we can meet. So how about you call me in about half an hour and I'll be back in my office where I can easily access my
I will do that.
calendar. And we will set up a meeting. Hopefully I can find a slot that works for you tomorrow. Oh, wait, here it is. Tomorrow. Oh, that's today. Tomorrow. I've almost got it here.
I can get in touch with you, Susan.
Okay, yeah. Unless you want to do first thing, I can do like an 8 o'clock.
I'll do 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the morning. That's fine.
Let's do 8 o'clock tomorrow.
8 a.m. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
That would be great.
Anybody else? Need any more hands? Nope. Anything else, gentlemen? Okay, we will adjourn. Thank you.